Yeah. Let's go microphone. And live. Yeah, we're live. Okay. All right, we're live on GospelRadioNation.com tonight, guys. You are in the situation room.
Hey.
It's the early, my sidekick co-host, Patrice Jones. And our special guest on tonight is Andrew Landry. Andrew Landry is with us, author and man of God, okay? So listen, sometimes our before name, it used to be something like a stripper name, okay? But now it's man and woman of God. I'm happy about that. I'm happy about that. Okay, guys. So, listen, we are excited to be here tonight. Pretty much our theme, Brother Andrew, as long as we've been doing this, and it's just been a few weeks. It's just been, what, about 5 weeks, Kat? Something like that. 5 weeks of grace. How about that?
Absolutely.
Okay. We have been talking about sexual abuse in so many different forms.
Right.
Childhood, adulthood, just so many forms. But I know Andrew and known him for a couple of years now, and he has written a book called Overcoming the Addiction That No One Has. You guys need to go and get this book. Okay? And so he's going to talk with us tonight about what this book means, because I'm sure you're saying overcoming the addiction that no one has. You know, like it's not like the shopping addiction that we have that we leave. I used to leave the bags in the car because I ain't want my see none of my bags. But this is the addiction that no one has. So to me that says that nobody want to talk about it.
Nobody want to talk about it.
All right. So you guys, I know I ain't gonna hear you clap. I know I ain't gonna hear you sing. But welcome our guest tonight, Andrew Landry. We're gonna clap for him. Okay. How about that? Okay. So, all right, Andrew, man, tell us about the book. Tell us about what you got going on, man.
So the book was birthed out of life experiences, obviously. I was at work one day and I was in prayer time, and God gave me a word, and the word was comes out of Revelations 12:11. They overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony.
Come on.
So he gave me that, and it was about 2 years ago, and I didn't really give much thought to it, didn't know what he was talking about. So I just went on by my business. And then about a year later, he told me to write the book. He gave me the title, Overcoming the Addiction That No One Has. And so I began to write the book, and it took me about 4 months to write the book, but to get it to where it was good to be read, then it took me another 6 months or so. So about a year total. So we wrote the book, and just trying to follow God's lead on it and just kind of tell the story, because when you think about that scripture, the blood never fails.
No.
The blood never fails. The issue is always the word of our testimony.
Right.
And so I wanted to write the book so that I could, tell my story, so that I'm able to help free people, let people know that they're not by themselves, that it is something that you can overcome, and it takes an intentional effort.
Yeah, intentional effort.
He said
intentional effort. That's good.
Who is it? Is it Travis Green who has a song?
Intentional. Yeah.
Intentional.
He's nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
Goodness.
Yeah.
I love that song.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, you are a man sitting here with a bunch of women.
Yep.
Telling your story to us. And this is the part that I love the most, because I'm a little thrown off, as it relates to everything that I do. But as it relates to sexual abuse, a man, especially if it comes from a female, in our society today, is welcome, or it's almost like a notch on the bed or the belt or whatever, right? Why do you think that is? First of all,
I think it's cultural. So I think our mentality is, we've conquered another, or we've added another one to our quota or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think that's most of it's culture, but a lot of it I think is taught. So when Johnny's young, you ask Johnny how many girlfriends he got.
Yeah.
Right.
So we've been taught that at a young age, and then it carries on. So when you think about boys play with toys. And so then you wonder why boys playing games. It's because that's all we've been taught.
Oh, wow.
You just said a mouthful.
Yes, you
Wow.
That's the truth.
Wow.
So we were taught to play with toys, and through our life we were, my sister was taught to wash the dishes and clean the house, but I was taught to, go outside and play football or go play catch or whatever it was. So then as adults, because what you're taught as a child is what you normally do as an adult, and so that's kind of the premise of that.
Wow. I remember Pastor Keon used to say something, and he said, kids are only a child 20% of their lives.
Right.
80% of the time, you need to be teaching them how to be an adult.
Right.
Because that's where they're going to be. They're going to grow up and they're going to leave you, and you have to teach them how to be an adult, not a child, the majority of the time. Right. So that lines up exactly with what Andrew just said. Wow. Man, that's good. That's good. Okay, so let's talk about overcoming the addiction that no one has. Okay. So it's already a prescription in that title right there, because he said, I'm not stuck in this. I'm overcoming, and I can teach you how to do it too. Right. Just like when Evangelist Cheryl Roberts was here, she wrote a book. How to what is the
My Body Is Not Your Playground.
Yes, but the second part is how to tell the adults, being a child, how to tell the adults that this is happening to me. Right. So I love that you're gonna say, hey, this is the overcoming. Right. This is what it looks like to me. This book, and some of us writing a book is getting it out.
Right.
And absolutely. I think that with me, I don't know about anybody else, with me, I know that writing mine is like, and I said it just a minute ago, we relive it when we write it.
Right.
And it's like almost like when you write it, it happened.
Right, absolutely.
Right. It happened.
It happened.
Yeah.
I can say it as much as I want to.
Right.
But when I write this, now I got to deal with if a shoulda, coulda, woulda, and we had a fifth, we'd all be drunk. Yeah. And mama and daddy and whoever has a feeling about what I wrote in here.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's my truth.
Right.
That's his truth.
That's his truth.
So, wow. I know that's why it takes me a long time. But anyways, man.
Well, I think, Missy, when you think about it, God tells us, write the vision, make it plain.
Yes.
I think the express written word is what really brings freedom. And so that's when you think about it, your freedom is in your transparency and your vulnerability. Yes. And when you can write it, then it frees you.
Right. Oh man, so, that's good. Ooh, that's good. Good. Yeah. His table of contents.
Just that alone.
This right here. Let me just hit it and quit it for y'all real quick, okay? Y'all gotta go get the book, so don't think I'm gonna sit here and read it to you. This ain't a storytelling session. It says, The Making of a Sex Addict. Understanding sex addiction, suffering in silence, teenage years before I knew I had a problem. Woo! Before I knew this was even a problem, like this just status quo. Okay. Bachelor season, what's done in the dark must come to light. They can't coexist together. How faith began to frame my future, breaking the silence, confession, I won't go back, a second chance at life and love, not just life and love. Wow. What I understand now, author's note in prayer and reflection and resources.
Right.
Man, so tell us about it. Man.
So I'm going to get a brief synopsis of the book. So when I was 3 years old, I was sexually mishandled by a lady that kept me, one of my mom's friends. Yeah. And, I was 3 years old. I didn't know what I was doing, but, that's what I was taught. So that went on for about 3 years. Then fast forward 3 years, then the same thing happened, but this time it was with a male culprit. And so at 3, I'm sexually mishandled, abused, molested, whatever words you want to use at 3. At 6, then it's by a male. And so I kind of seen both sides. The male thing lasted for about 10 years.
Wow.
So for 10 years, I went through that. And, I didn't know any better. I didn't know that it was, Mom always said if somebody do it, tell. Who you going to tell when the person is usually close to you? So you don't really have, you're caught between that, this person I care about and this person I love. So who do you tell? So for about 10 years that happened, till I was about 16. And then when I turned 16, then I met a young lady. She kind of showed me the ropes, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So I was like, I kind of like this. a little bit better.
Yeah.
This got a little bit more fulfillment, if I can say.
Yeah.
So she kind of taught me the ropes, whatever, and you know, so that kind of framed my thought process. So then through my first marriage, you know, because sex was a thing that I knew, sex was a thing that I used. So we got married. We stayed married for about 4.5 years. This is when my daughter was born. And so, you know, because my generation was probably on the edge of being the last generation of you do the right thing.
Right.
You get somebody pregnant, you're married.
You're married.
Yeah.
That's what we were taught. And so we got married and...
Wait a minute, Andrew.
Go ahead.
I don't want to miss that. You said sex was the thing that I knew.
Right.
And what was the next part?
So that's the thing that I did.
That's the thing that you did.
Right.
Wow.
Because you do what you learn.
Yeah.
Right.
That's absolutely
Right. So, and I'll touch on that in a minute.
Yes.
No, I'm going to touch on it now.
Listen,
So-
I had to
Go
back
ahead.
up and say,
Right.
wait a minute, give that
So-
one more again.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you think about it, if I try to tell you right now that 1 + 1 is 3, it's going to take the world, everything in the world to try to prove it to you.
Right.
It's because it's what you were taught.
Right.
And so now 1 + 1 is always 2 till the end of time. And so even when you teach a kid or a child about sex, it's what they know.
Yeah.
That messes up their thought process, their mind, their thought process. So for me, I was doing what I knew to do. And so, like I say, fast forward to 16, the girl taught me whatever. And so then I got married. I cheated throughout my whole marriage. So I cheated through my marriage.
Wait a minute, back it up.
Okay.
I got to know this because he said something key and significant in there, and I don't want nobody to miss this. He said, I was 16, and then this woman came along, and she kind of taught me the ropes, and I kind of liked that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, how do I say this?
Say it.
Okay, so the sexual orientation right there was being displayed or played with, okay? It could have went either way.
Right.
But you said, hold up, this woman
This is
came
what I
in,
like, yeah.
and this is what I liked
Right.
a little bit better because
Right.
she showed me some ropes or whatever. So look at all the stuff that gets intermingled in here. We're talking about sexuality,
Right.
sexual orientation.
Right.
We're talking about sex. We're
Right.
talking about men and women and a child.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, I didn't want nobody to miss that because he was able to make a decision
Decision.
consciously himself to say, hold up, I like this
Right.
a little bit better, even though I've been having
What has
this,
happened to me.
what has
Right.
I was mishandled by a male, but I like this better.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys, I didn't want us to miss that right there.
Right,
Okay,
right.
all right.
And it was important because
Yeah.
even you know we experimented as boys with boys because that's what we knew.
Right, right.
And then you know my first time having real sex, I was about 12, so
Yeah.
I actually had sex, but
Yeah.
that wasn't it was just because I knew what to do.
Forced or-
Right.
yeah.
It was just that was my
Yeah.
first time. So I started having sex when I was about 12, but the 16-year-old was older than me. So she knew the ropes. She knew what to do, what not to do. So she kind of taught me that. And so that was the first time that I had been taught about sex as opposed to just being...
From a 16-year-old perspective.
Right. So now I'm like, okay, this is cool. I like it.
Yeah.
So then I started acting out in that behavior. And it carried on. So like I said, I got married. We stayed married for about 4.5 years. I cheated the whole time. Then we got divorced, and we were divorced about 4.5 years. And so during that time, I was trying to find myself, I was still out there playing around with the women or whatever. So then I met my second wife, and she and I had 2 boys together. And so now this is the first person that I had met that wasn't attached to sex. It was attached to a relationship.
Wow.
So we didn't have sex before like all the other times. So I was like, okay. So now I thought I was over it. I thought this was the thing that was gonna help me. And before too long, I was cheating on her. And so then I was like, man, why can't I beat this? So then about 2006, then that's when I met my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And then things started turning. So I got saved in March of 2006. By April, I was back doing my old stuff. And I thought that when you get saved, because I wasn't raised in a church, I thought when you get saved, it was all over. Everything was going to be good. You weren't going to have no problems.
Yeah.
Everything was done.
Yeah.
They don't teach you that.
Yeah,
No.
right.
They don't teach you that.
That's the part.
And one day, I was in service, and my pastor at the time said that salvation is instantaneous, but deliverance is a process.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Nobody taught me that.
Yeah.
And so for about 6 months, I went through that, going back and forth, trying to, be this new creature that you are, and trying to still hold on to who I was. And so I went to talk to my pastor. He's like a father to me, and he said, your problem is more than just on the surface. And he didn't obviously know anything that had went on.
Yeah.
And so he sent me to a therapist, a sex therapist. And so I went to the therapist, and I talked to him. And he basically diagnosed me with compulsive sexual disorder, or what we call sex addiction. So, he's like, well, what do you want? I was like, I just want to be better. I got this new thing in Christ, and I want to be this new creature, but it's not working for me. And so I said, I just want to be better. And he said, so I'll tell you what. Go home and tell your wife about it.
Oh,
well,
Lord have mercy.
That's enough to make you drive off a 16.
What, can you say that one more time, brother? Oh,
I was like,
Lord.
Tell her what?
Yeah, what you want?
He's like, tell everything.
Oh.
And I say, well, what if she asks names? He said, you cannot overcome this if you don't do the steps.
Wow.
So I had to make a decision. Do I want to go? Because my wife had no clue. When I tell you she had no clue that I was out there and doing cheating, she had no clue. So now I got to go and take this woman that's, basically, we live in a great life. We got plenty of money, got nice cars, nice houses. We got all this stuff. And I got to go tell her, look, by the way, for the last 8 years, I've been cheating.
Your boy been creeping.
Yeah.
Okay. Lord.
And so I was on my way home. No, but so before I left his office, he said something to me that forever will stick with me. He said, if you want to be better, do what I ask you to do. I'm not trying to save your marriage. He says, if you don't tell her, don't come back. And that to me was profound, because it let me know that he was really after my best interest, not my money.
Yes.
So I got in the car, and I was driving home, and I was like, Lord, what do I do with
what's
this?
What's going on here?
What do I do with this? And so I called my pastor on the way home, and I talked to him about it, and he said, what he said is true. And so I was looking for him to say, no, don't do it. But because he's a man of God, and he recognized that I needed to be healed, he said that it was right. So I went home, and I talked to her that night, and after we talked for a little while, she just went to sleep, and I'm like, whoa, this ain't right. Now I just told her.
Yeah, let me sleep with my eyes open, because I don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and I done gave her names of people that we knew together, that were friends of hers, that I was friends with, whatever. So I done gave her these people that were in close proximity to her, that I had slept with. And she just went to sleep. And so it was kind of nervous for me. And then the next morning we got up and we talked a little bit more about it. And then, we tried to make it work, but it was just too much. And so we divorced. And as she was leaving the house the day, I came home and she was packing up. One of her cousins was there, and he was helping her move. And he said, man, I would have never told. I said, I know, but I just want to be, I just want to be right. And I said, but God's going to give me my wife back. And he's like, you kind of crazy. You kind of crazy. Okay. That wasn't the words he said. But he's like, you crazy.
I wouldn't have Bible study.
This ain't gonna happen.
Yeah.
So for the first year and a half we were divorced, I just prayed, and I was like, Lord, I just want my family back. I was like, I was mad at God because I'd done the right thing. I wasn't concerned about the consequences of doing the wrong thing. It was, I done the right thing. I told her I'm trying to get right. I'm trying to be in line with your word. So I spent about a year and a half praying every night. I just want my family back. I want my family back. So after that, after that year and a half, my prayer changed. And it was, God, I just want somebody who loves you like I love you. That's all I want. I just want some. About a year and a half after that, she and I get remarried.
Oh, wow.
I think God did that because I told the guy I was going to get her back, even though our marriage wasn't supposed to be, if you can say that. So I think that was God honoring my prayer.
Wow.
And then I met my wife now. And so I've been married to my wife now for 6 years.
Wow.
And God honored my prayer. Because I said, I just want somebody who loves you like I do. And so he gave me that also. And so that's kind of the story of the book. I mean, there's a lot more details in there. But that's pretty much how the book came about. And so, my goal is to just make sure that I can help people get whole and healed. Let them know that they're not by themselves.
Wow.
And if you can be transparent and you can be vulnerable, you can be healed.
Yeah.
What got me is when you said what the doctor said. I am not worried about saving your marriage. Isn't that something that you sometimes to be delivered, you have to save you and you lose them.
Absolutely.
For you to be delivered,
right?
Like for me to, or for you to get free from this thing that you've been dealing with. Like you just got to put it all out there on the table. This is what it is. This is what it looks like. This is who it looked like and what it looked like and when and how and all that. And I know that you got a decision right now if you want to walk or you want to stay. But I'm gonna give that to you so I can be free.
Absolutely.
Something has to die in order for you to live. Basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That right there is profound. You use the exact right word. And I always say this, I'll never worry about somebody's opinion that don't have to reap the consequences of what I'm going to have to go through making that decision.
Absolutely.
So that's something, wow. Wow. That right there is amazing because that says exactly what you said it said. He's not worried about your money. He wants you to be free of this. And the thing about it is if we lined up 10 men right here, right now, I would really, I don't know if I'd get one that would say, hey, I have,
brave enough to
choose me. Let me tell you about somebody who mishandled me or whatever. I mean, it's just not gonna happen. Because of the teachings and and how the cultural things like you talked about. It's just amazing how we'll try to keep it from the girls that we raise.
Right, but it's okay for the boys.
It's okay for the boys, or if you don't have these notches, or if you have not had these experiences, are you gay? Are you this? Are you that? What's going on? So it's just like we expect that they have these experiences. I don't know.
Because it's taught, especially in the black families, in the black households, it's cool for the man to have a bunch of girls, but when women have a bunch of guy friends, then we're labeled as hoes. That's just what it is. And so for you to write this book and to be so detailed, I read the book in 2 days because I was just so interested, because this is something that we don't talk about. We don't talk about it. Men are taught to, and we wonder why, we meet different guys that, their attitudes are bad. They go through women. They have a problem with committing. What's the underlying reason for that? And a lot of times, it's in the book. It happens, but they don't talk about it. They don't talk about it.
Because what's the label you get if you talk about it? Like Andrew was saying, at 16 there was a pivotal thing that could have happened right there. He could have went over to the male side, but he chose to go over to the women's side. And I know statistics, usually if a man is mishandled by a man, the majority, 80% of the time, they have homosexual relationships. Okay, so, and with the women also. Or now you have both. Now you have bisexual and things, and these are just statistics. These are not Misty said, because I always like to check those things. But even in counseling, they have to deal with all this kind of stuff, and so just that you were able to say, hey, I'm gonna go over here, but this has been my norm for 10 years, and I'm only 16. That's major to me. Like, you're not even an adult yet. I mean, it really, and you're able to be mishandled for 10 years by a male and make a decision to go like that and say, well, I kind of like this here better. Not that it's right.
Because I'm still,
but when you think about it, it's the same. I mean, it's the same as we do as an adult. As adult men.
It is.
It is. I like Susie, but oh, I like Janet better.
Right.
And so we switch.
Right.
Because this is better. It's what we're taught.
Right.
So the biggest thing is the thing that I think to me is we suffer in silence. And until we stop suffering in silence, we'll still continue doing the same cycle. It's the same cycle.
Yeah.
It shows up and manifests in different areas. And so for me, it manifests in sexual behavior. Some people it manifests in alcohol.
Yes.
Some people in drugs.
Yes.
Some people in pornography.
Yes.
Whatever it is, the hurt will manifest itself in a place of lack.
You know, another thing that I found out too, and he is absolutely right. It manifests in all different areas of our life, and it kind of throws up on us, right? Okay, high blood pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, all these things that we deal with, anger, rage, all this here stuff, and it just comes out.
Right.
It comes out, and then if we're not careful, we're throwing back up on the people that we love.
Absolutely.
Those very things that happen to us, man, that is so good that you would say that, because people need to know that.
Right.
Like, your behavior is toxic. Where some people just think, oh, that's just the crazy person that's
Yeah, that's just who she
something
is.
happened
Right.
to them at some point,
Right.
somewhere, that caused them to be like that.
Right.
Okay, and it's not just in a toxic relationship. It just comes out all different ways, and I'm glad that you brought attention
It's
to that.
it's gonna manifest.
Andrew, what would you say to a grown man who is still dealing with the residue of something like this that has happened in his childhood, that he could be free of it as well, based on just listening to us on tonight? What do you think that you could say to get him to a place of freedom like you have came to?
The very first thing I would say is get help.
Yeah.
You can't do this by yourself. It was so many times I said, I can do it. I'm not gonna cheat this time. I'm not gonna do it. You can't do it by yourself.
You're right.
One, you gotta have the Spirit of Christ in you. You gotta have that.
Right.
The second thing is you gotta get professional help. You got to. There's no other way. You just can't. The spirit of the activity is what keeps you in bondage.
Wow.
And you gotta free the spirit. And you can't free the spirit by just kumbaya.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's pray about it. Yeah. What you gotta act.
It's gotta have some action.
Yeah.
And by God, by all means, prayer works. I believe prayer
Yes.
works. I believe
Yes.
prayer is the
Yes.
is the major thing.
Absolutely.
You gotta get professional help. You gotta be open. You gotta be honest, and you gotta be transparent. I was at a men's conference this morning, and one of the guys said something that was really profound to me. If we look at it medically, the issue is we deal with the symptoms, but we don't deal with the root.
Right.
And if we start dealing with the root, then we get rid of the symptoms.
You're right.
Yeah.
And that's the issue, because I'm dealing with the symptom of a cold, but the reason I got a cold is because I got an ulcer. So instead of me going to fix the ulcer, I'm taking Tylenol PM so I can sleep at night.
Wow.
And I keep getting the cold
Right.
because I never addressed the
Right.
issue.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's where we fail as men.
Wow.
And I speak for men because I'm only a man,
Yes,
so I can't
yes.
say how women do it or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I try to make that clear, because I wrote the book, and the book was wrote from my vantage point to men.
Of course.
But then as I've kind of gone through this process, I realized everybody suffers with it.
Yeah.
Women are sexual addicts too.
Yeah.
72% of the men in the church are sex addicts.
I believe that.
84% are pastors. It's in the Christian faith,
Yeah.
but we won't address it,
Right.
so we keep coughing.
Wow.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
We won't go get the ulcer
We'll
fixed.
get the ulcer
Lord
fixed.
have mercy. You
That's
know,
good.
I remember a season that I counseled some people, and I remember it was all drugs addiction that I was getting, and it seemed like I would get the couples, and the biggest report that I would hear was from the women was not the drug, but the women. And I said, do you know, that if you can get delivered from the drugs, that the women will, that will go away, because that goes with that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is absolutely on point.
Right.
Oh man, because we're not dealing with the root of what it is.
And the way to deal with the root is professionally.
Yes.
That's how you deal with it.
Yeah.
Because these people are trained, they've studied, they got the information that I can't self-medicate.
Right.
Wow.
Exactly. And that's something that we do.
Right. We're trying to self-medicate.
Yeah.
So we don't even do self-care. How are we gonna self-medicate?
Yeah, that's good.
So now I'm trying to say I can do it because of my ego, because of my pride, because of the fear of judgment from telling somebody. So then we don't go seek professional help. And in the black community,
talk about
it's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
We won't go see a counselor, a therapist. We won't do it.
Yeah. We have this thing about, growing up in the black families, what goes on in this house stays in this house, and then it stays in the house, and then now you have a grown man or a grown woman that's trying to deal with these things that you that love me told me that this needs to stay in the house.
Right.
So now we have a full-fledged problem within ourselves, because the person that loves us tells us we have to keep this right here. No,
Absolutely.
that's not right. And we have to speak out about it,
Absolutely.
and we got to deal with it. It's an issue. And this is why we run across people with the attitudes, they popping off, they going off, even on the jobs, and you wonder why, their behavior is the way they behave. No, it's not normal. Something is wrong. Something is not right. Because it's not normal for me not to speak to me and I just pop off. Oh, Andrew didn't speak to me today. No, I have a problem if Andrew passed me by, and I have a full-fledged problem that Andrew didn't speak to me. But Kat, did you speak?
Right.
No, and guess what? And Andrew not speaking to you ain't the problem.
Ain't the problem.
It is not the problem.
Yeah.
But that's what it looks like to us when somebody pisses us off, or you got a supervisor at work who is just not
crazy.
fair, just is nuts, I mean, always writing you up and all this kind of stuff. No, they mad and angry about something. And you know what? If we would just get to know them through their pain and all of the things that they are going through, you'll find out what the problem is down the line somewhere. And the daycare will be back open, and you'll be able to figure out what's going on.
But are our personalities welcoming to that atmosphere that people will feel comfortable enough to be able to share with you and say, well, Kat, I didn't mean it like that, but this is what I'm going through. And we have to remind ourselves that just because they pop off, we don't have to pop off back, because it could be they're going through something, 5 minutes before they walk in, even in the church,
And the other thing, and at church is the worst place. Lord have mercy. Because, at church, sometimes that's the only place where somebody get to say something. The only place where they're in charge, I'm over the ushers, or I'm over there. And that's the only place that they can get to where they feel like they're in charge. Say is valid, or their word has any type of significance, and then they don't understand sometimes, so they are throwing up on the people. What's happening on the inside again is spilling out on God's people, and now the people are like, well, hell, I could get treated like that in the world. I ain't got to come to church, and deal with Miss Peggy Usher.
They won't let me in the door because I got my head cocked back.
Miss Peggy Usher got a situation she ain't healed from.
That's a root issue.
Most definitely. Now, Andrew, I want to ask you this. If you're in a room of men, full of men, and you share this story, how is it taken? Mostly.
I do a men's session on every other Monday night, and in that group we're open and honest. I can have that conversation in a group of men without judgment.
Of course.
I can have that conversation in a room of men, and then the men will open up. Because they see my transparency. The issue with men healing is the judgment that comes from it. And you usually get judgment with women. And that's one of the issues why men don't. I can't come to my wife and say, hey, babe, I'm having a problem with lust. I can't do that. I can do it, but I'm talking about in general. But I can't do it because now I got repercussions of issues that I deal with.
Right.
So now I have to try to handle those issues on my own.
Playing detective and everything else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we don't make it safe and non-judgmental for men. Is why men deal with the issues that they deal in. But if in a room full of men, I never have issues and I never get judgment, and all I get is feedback. And 90% of the time, if I'm in a room full of men, 7 out of 10 of those men have been through the exact same thing that I have.
Jesus.
Wow.
Every Monday night, every other Monday night when we have our sessions, 7 out of the 10 men will come up to me and say, I'm glad you said that because I'm dealing with the same thing, or I dealt with the same thing. The thing about the book is, it touches everybody.
It does.
There's nobody that's not going to be touched. Either you're going to be touched from a parent, you're going to be touched from a culprit, a victim, or a victor. You're going to be touched.
Right.
Because as a parent, now I got to think, who am I letting watch my kids?
Yes.
Are those people that are aunts and uncles, are my kids safe? As a victim, have I been touched? Has somebody said something inappropriate? Has somebody did something that wasn't right?
Yeah.
As a victor, I've come through. I went through that. I've came through. But a lot of times our behavior stays attached to our incident.
Wow.
Wow.
And since that happens,
You talk about stuck.
we never get out of it.
Our behavior. You hear that? Our behavior stays. That's like we talked about the other day with post-traumatic stress disorder. It's like you're still stuck, and now your behavior reflects that those incidents
That's
that
what
you've
it is.
been through.
Right.
When it's not dealt with.
Right.
When it's not dealt with.
Andrew, do you have interaction with who mishandled you at all?
So the lady, she passed on about 10 years ago, I found out.
Okay.
So I haven't, I talked to her probably 2 years before she passed. We ran into each other at the store.
How did
Put the brakes on
how
that.
did that go?
I think I was in a good place. So it wasn't a bad meeting.
Okay.
We didn't talk about it, but we both knew about it.
Okay.
So I think it's similar to what you see now. Let's say Tabitha, know her, it was her uncle.
Yes.
They see each other at the family reunion.
Yeah.
They
Right.
both know.
Yeah.
But he ain't coming over and apologize, and then
Right.
she ain't going to bring it up.
Right.
Similar to that.
That kind.
So it was that. The male is still alive, and I see him. I see him probably 2 or 3 times a year, and it's a handshake. Good seeing you. Whatever. No hard feelings, no ill feelings. One thing I recognize is that, and this is just my opinion. I don't have no studies. I don't have no facts, but I would say that if he did it to me, it was done to him.
Of course.
Absolutely.
People do what they learn.
Yeah, reciprocate, yeah.
And so I don't have any hard feelings toward the person. I don't, I speak to them just as normal, but I'm free.
Yeah.
So it doesn't hurt me. It doesn't. I recognize the purpose in it. And so since I recognize the purpose in it, I recognize there was a purpose for it. And so I ain't got no ill feelings toward him, and it's cool if I see him. Cool. I ain't going to call him and say, "Hey, let's go to lunch."
Right.
But I don't got no problems with him. If we at the same place, I'll buy him lunch.
Right.
Right.
So I don't have no ill feelings at all.
And I think once you get that healing, like you say, once you get that healing and you're free, then you have a sense of God gives you that forgiveness for that person, not to, like you say, be in a room with them and call them over to dinner or anything like that. But once you get that freedom, you can deal with them in passing, not hold that grudge, because God has freed you from that. Okay. And the Bible speaks about forgiveness. If I'm going to heal you, you also have to be forgiven of that thing that happened. Yeah. It's a part of relating and releasing it. You have to release it. So that's good.
Yeah, who the Son sets free is free indeed.
That's the
I'm
word.
free.
Yes.
So I ain't got no problems.
It's amazing the things that we can sit here at this table and talk about and tell each other we are free of those things.
Right.
And how we can encounter the very person who caused us pain, but yet and say, I'm free.
Right.
I'm free from that.
Yeah.
But if these things would not have happened to us, we would not be the people that we are today.
Yeah. It shapes us.
Yeah.
And, and it is a lot of people, who may or may not believe in God.
Right.
Okay, and I welcome you on, okay, because I would hope that you would see my God in these stories.
Right.
The thing about it is, some people are like, why would God allow these things to happen?
Right.
And I am sitting here, and I know you are, Andrew, and I know you are, Ken, and I'm telling you, I'm absolutely saying that if I wouldn't have went through the things that I went through, it might have been not good for your girl. Okay, I might have been in a padded room.
Right.
I might have been prostituting somewhere. I might have been on drugs. Hell, I might not even be alive.
Right.
If I wouldn't have found God when I found Him,
Right.
because nobody made Him look good to me.
Right. Right.
Nobody.
Yeah.
So it absolutely was necessary
Right.
for me.
I think if you're a person of faith, the one thing that I would say is my overview or my thought process comes from Job. I want to be the have you considered.
Have you considered my servant Job?
If you're not of the have you considered, then you need to be working on being the have you considered.
That's right.
To hell with the have and the have not.
Have you considered?
Because when you think about Job, and I don't want to preach, but when you think about Job was minding his own business.
Yeah.
He didn't have a clue what was finna hit him. He was just sitting there taking care of sheep and his cow and his wife and just doing his thing. But Satan didn't come to God and say, hey, can I get him?
Yeah.
God said, have you considered him? And that's where I am. I am in every obstacle, in every struggle, in every turmoil of my life. Yeah. I look at it as he considered me. Because there's nothing that God won't allow that is not of his will. So he allowed it. So I accept it as that. But it's faith that allows me to do that. Nothing else. It's my belief that all things work together for the good. That's what it is.
Wow.
So a person that is not of faith don't have that same vision.
Right.
But it is my testimony can help them to see that it is faith-based.
Wow.
It is. Yeah.
Wow. Let's talk about this rib committee. Let's talk about your wife.
All right. Let's talk about my wife. I love you, baby.
And beauty. Hey, girl.
Hey, baby girl. Love you.
I was just one of my new words, rib committee, because I love this story. But tell me about your meeting and you guys. I know you've been married 6 years. How do you share a story like this with a woman that may or may not be considered to be your wife? Looking at her as being a wife. How do you drop this on a woman?
Well, I think if you're friends first, then that stuff kind of takes care of itself.
Yeah.
So when I met my wife, I wasn't looking to marry her. I ain't even pay no attention to her. No. So we'll have different stories when you talk to her.
Of course.
But of course, my story is right.
Oh, Lord,
we met at church. My wife's from Lincoln, Nebraska, so she moved down here in 2008. We went to the same church for a year, and I never even noticed or paid any attention to her. We just would speak. And then we were in the same ministry. So I had an adult basketball ministry, and we worked in the youth ministry together. So I was doing this adult basketball league, and then so one of the girls that came to the thing, she's like, "Well, why don't you have one for women?" Well, I knew my wife at the time. I knew she played basketball. I know she was good at it. So I was like, "Hey, I need to get your number so I can talk to you about this basketball thing."
Wait a minute. Run that back one more time.
Yeah.
Wait. Did I get that loud and clear?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, okay.
So we was all cool, but we had never really talked. And so I was like, I need to get your number so we can talk about this basketball thing. Girls want to do this league or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, her roommate at the time was the one that really was trying to get to do the league, but I didn't really know her like that.
Yeah.
And so my wife said that was my way to get her number.
Lord.
So anyway, we talked about that, and me and my wife dated. We dated for about a year. We met at church. Like I said, we dated for about a year, but I was with my wife when I got to I was with my wife. Me and my wife now were dating, but then me and my ex-wife, that's when we got remarried. So I broke off my relationship with my wife now to remarry my wife. And so in that process, you know, it was a little turmoil.
Yeah, but well.
Because we went to the same church still.
Okay, listen.
So we all going to the same church. My ex-wife at the time, she didn't really go to church that often, so it wasn't too bad. But so we went to the same church, and so I would see her, and we was in the same ministry. And so we kind of, you know, passing by, and I, you know, at this time I'm already good, so I'm past the sexual part, so it wasn't even about that. So it was, I'm just, you know, I just want to be a good husband. You know, God has gave me the opportunity to have my wife back, so you know, we're gonna do the thing. So about 6 months in, my ex-wife, she decided marriage just wasn't for her. She didn't like it, whatever. So we went on separate ways. Well, keep in mind, me and Katrina had been going to church the whole time together, but we had never really talked. She never even knew why I left her to go marry my wife.
Oh, wow.
She didn't have a clue. And so then one day we had an event for the leader of the ministry, and she was communication director, so she had to text me. So this was in December that my wife had left, and I filed for divorce. And so I hadn't talked to Katrina at all. And so then she texted me and she said, hey, you know, we're having such and such for the leader's, you know, birthday, you know, wants to know if, you know, you want to, I say, contribute or whatever we're doing. I was like, yeah, cool, I'll do it. I say, by the way, I need to talk to you. And she was like, okay. I say, meet me at Denny's at 9 o'clock, you know. So we met at Denny's, and like I said, we hadn't talked. So then I sat down at Denny's at 9 o'clock, and from 9 o'clock till 4 in the morning, we talked.
Wow.
I sure did talk.
I gave her the real deal. I told her what happened. I told her why it happened. You know, and just for information, for me, my kids were the life of my lifeline, right? And so because I knew what happened to me, I wanted to be back in a situation where I could prevent it from happening to me.
Right.
And that was one of the primary reasons that me and my ex-wife had got back together. And so, but she didn't know that. And so then we had that conversation and we talked. And you know, I told her, you know, I want to be with you, and I want to spend the rest of my life with you. And she's like, well, you know, God ain't told me that, so I'm gonna have to pray about that. And I said, well, no, you pray, do what you want to, you know, do what you need to do. And so, in the process, we met on January the 15th, and then
that's my birthday. Hey, that's my good day.
Good day. So we met on January the 15th. We officially started dating in probably mid-February. April the 13th, I proposed. January the 19th, we got remarried, and we've been married ever since.
Yeah.
So,
that is all right.
To answer your question, to tell her about it, because we were friends, it was conversations that we already had. There was no surprises. So she wasn't surprised or shocked. I think the biggest shock for her was that I wrote this book, because I didn't tell her I was writing it. Mm-hmm. So I had this book completely finished before my wife knew about it. Okay. And that caused a little problems, because she being my friend, how can I write a book and her not knowing it? How can you write a book without me knowing? Yeah. But I needed to be clear. I didn't need it to be about, you know, how I'm going to present her or what I'm saying about somebody else. I needed it to be what God told me to do. Yeah. So we kind of got past that little thing. And, you know, we just been rocking and rolling ever since.
Good.
You know, sometimes people have a misunderstanding about how we hear God, right. Especially when you're in a covenant marriage, okay? And I'm saying a covenant that God created and not a covenant that we created,
right,
okay? In many capacities, we do hear from God separately, because we have a personal relationship with Him, you know. Right. And I always, you know, would use this, you know. Sometimes I think the woman hear from God first, because we always start preparing for stuff, and then we wondering why we be preparing for stuff, and then they'll come back. The husbands will come back and say, "Hey, well, God told me such."
Well, I already been
I already got my head in the game about that.
Yeah,
you know? Yeah, but I understand how that could, especially when you have built a solid friendship first. Right. And guess what? That a lot of folk don't do that anymore, and that's why marriage ends in divorce, or that oh Lord, that you can have weathered so much, and then you get to a point where I just can't do that one.
Do it. Yeah.
I just can't forgive that one.
Right.
And see, the you can't get through the situation because your forgiveness ran out.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right.
We have it's like our forgiveness doesn't have an extended service plan or something like that,
Right.
And we only want to forgive what we want to forgive,
right?
And we're not understanding that what if God would have did that with us?
Right. Absolutely.
Like we can't pick and choose what part of the story that we want to forgive. It's either all or nothing,
That's
and we have a tendency to do that.
Right.
I can forgive you for cursing me out or, not recognizing my birthday, those type of things. But when it comes to infidelity, well, sin is sin.
Yeah, absolutely.
At the end of the day, and if you love that person, then it's either all in or all out. We can't pick and choose because, like Misty said, what if God decides to pick and choose? Now, Kat, look, you done went over here and stole out the beauty supply,
right?
And I forgave you for that, but then you just cussed out Barbara Jean at the grocery store.
Right.
I'm not going to forgive you for that.
Yeah.
So if God was to do that with us, we wouldn't like it.
Right.
And so we have to be forgiving. All the way around. We may not like it, but in our hearts, we do have to be forgiving.
Absolutely.
Andrew, I have a question for you.
Sure.
As a woman, how can we as women receive men that have gone through these things without being judgmental and without being so, because we as women can be strong on, I'm not going to deal with that. He's been to prison. I'm not dealing with that. We have a whole list of stuff that we're not going to deal with.
Right.
But we're not recognizing the things that men deal with us.
Correct.
So how can we as women receive your honesty? Not you in particular, but men, when they come to share with us without being judgmental.
Some of the judgmental comes from the makeup of the woman. Y'all are nurturers. Y'all are, y'all build stuff. Many times you build the wrong thing. So you build an opinion, or you build a protection, a wall against what I have. So the easiest way, and I don't know that it's easy because I don't deal with it, but the way that I would say is being supportive is finding out what does he need. Wow. What are you needing from me in this situation?
Right.
So I come to you and I say, hey, I deal with lust.
Yeah.
Then instead of you, well, I'm gonna be watching you, or we ain't going to the beach together, or all of that.
The negative stuff.
It is, baby, honey, how can I help you in that? What is it that you need from me? And that's how you get a man to open up. But when he gives you what he needs, you got to give it to him.
Right.
Even if you don't like it. Because once you break that trust and confidentiality part with him, it's over. I can't tell you nothing else. I can't bring you nothing else. I ain't got no problems. I deal with it myself. And then we go to the bar and want to have drinks. Or then we go reach out to the other girl. Because she don't care about supporting you in the issue, because she is the solver of the problem. So
that's good.
To me, the best thing is, what can I do to help you?
Right.
How can I help you? And be sincere and recognize that if you can't do it, you can't do it.
Right.
So if his issue is sleeping with other women and you can't handle that, say, look, baby, I love you, but I can't handle that. I can't do that. I can't be that for you. And so now it gives him the ability to make the decision if he wants to invest in the area of being with you or getting help or going a different route.
Right.
Wow.
But I think that's how you do it.
That's good.
Wow.
That's good. That's good.
Everybody can't be your confessional.
No.
Right.
What the Catholics say, got a
because
confessional.
you can't be out here dating, and you have to know that this is somebody that you want to spend the rest of your life with before you begin to open up and just share what you're going through or what you're dealing with or what you're in counseling for, because your secret is not sacred with everybody.
It's not.
It's true.
It is not.
And so you have to be careful with that too.
Exactly. And in my experience, it's been a whole bunch of worldly people kept better secrets than the Christian folk.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because what happens when you share whatever it is that you need to share with me, and then that relationship or that friendship ends, then you have a whole situation about, them telling my story their way.
Right.
Versus telling my story the way that I told it to you.
Right.
And so we have to be careful with that too. So that's kind of...
Yeah, I think you have to be careful. I also think you can't avoid it. Because everybody that you become close with is not going to be your mate.
Right. Yes. That's true.
When you're in the opposite sex and you're in a relationship, just because y'all get along great and everything's wonderful and y'all trying to build something, don't mean that's the person you're going to marry. That's true. Some people are going to have your story. And that's just the facts. So you have to determine with your discernment if this is a person that I want to share the deep part of my story, or if I just want to give the surface part.
Right.
So my first wife knew about the incident. My second wife knew about the incident, but my third wife knows everything.
Wow.
And I think a part of telling the story, sometimes your healing comes from bits and pieces of it, because the more you talk about it, then you tell this part of the chapter, then that part of the chapter, and then you can tell the whole book.
Right.
Type of thing. So I think that's good, and once we get the healing and the help that we need, then we are free to be able to share the entire story, not only to help us, because the more we talk about it, the more we're helped.
Right.
To be able to help somebody else,
Absolutely.
that's going through maybe that same thing.
Wow.
And,
Andrew just said something profound. He said some relationships will have your story.
Right.
And to even elaborate that on even more, some relationships will have the success of your story.
Right.
Beyond the story.
Right.
They're left with just the story.
Right.
That imprint.
Right.
Now, I can take that same story to another relationship and have success in it. Because maybe we have not grew enough to be able to have success in that story.
Right. Absolutely.
That's so profound, because many times with situations like this, we become immature. We become immature in our Christianity, in faith, in our understanding, in our application. I know women that have heard similar stories who have associated it with, well, I don't know if I would be able to accept that. They might go back over to the other side, with bisexuality and all this kind of stuff, and different things like that. You gotta be a grown mature woman to say, listen, and that's why I say the rib committee, because it take a grown woman, a grown woman, okay, to say this is what it is. Where we talk about all ducks and everything on the table, to put all your cards on the table and say this is what it is, and I mean, and we have got to get to a place as Christians where you don't get to church me. You get me every time you get me.
Right.
You don't just get a version
not a representation of me.
Because when your representatives show up, they ain't gonna say what you said.
Right. Absolutely.
You're not gonna get the right story.
Right.
So man, that's good.
Right.
You can leave a story with somebody, but the other person might get the success of that.
Right.
Meaning that they can take what you couldn't put up with, they can take it and build something completely different.
Absolutely.
Out of that same man, out of that same woman.
Absolutely.
And guess what? The story might be similar, but it might have some differences in there, So man, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
That is so good.
That's good.
Wow. What would you say? Well, let me ask you this: your parents' view, if I may ask, how did that work after the book? After you possibly telling them, how did that go over?
Me and my mom were strained for a little while because mom was hurt.
Yeah.
Because she felt at fault.
Of course.
So she was hurt, and so she wasn't really too happy about it.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, nobody knew about the book. So mama didn't know about the book, pops didn't know. Nobody knew about the book before I wrote it.
Didn't know.
Nobody
knows.
knows.
Yeah.
So when I did tell mom, she was hurt and she didn't like the idea.
Yeah.
But my explanation to her was, but it's gonna heal people. And then so I told a couple of other people from that same generational mentality, what happens in the house, stay in the house.
Yes.
I would have never told. I would have never said that. Well, the problem with the world now is we never told.
Right.
We never said anything.
Right.
So, and I think it goes to the thing that I was saying. If it happened with somebody that I'm close to, and Mama's saying don't tell, when do I get to tell?
Right.
When do I get to be free?
Right.
Now, it ain't Mom's fault because she's not responsible for somebody else's actions.
Right.
It's not even Mom's responsibility because she was doing what she had to do to take care of us. So she was at work, and that's why we went. That's fine. The responsibility lies on the culprit. I'm not responsible. And one thing my wife says a lot. You know, my wife's a LPC. She's a licensed professional counselor.
Okay.
And so I'm her biggest client.
Man, that is awesome.
Other than that dual relationship,
you got favor everywhere.
Other than that dual relationship thing, now, but one thing that my wife says that's really profound to me is that I am never responsible for how you treat me. I'm only responsible for how I treat you.
Yeah.
And so I think that was the thing with those people is why I can go to those people and be cool is because I'm responsible for how I treat them. I'm responsible for the love of Christ that I show.
Right.
And so Mom was upset a little bit. It strained us for a little while, but we cool, you know. Pops, my dad wasn't around, so I don't even know what his thought process is. You know, he got the book. He's never mentioned anything or said anything about it, which is cool. Everybody don't like it.
Right.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Because it ain't about everybody.
Right.
So when I figured out that it ain't about everybody and it ain't even about me,
that's good.
then that's what freed me.
Right.
So it ain't even about what I went through. It's about how I can help that person behind me that's coming, or the person that's listening tonight that's saying, hey, I went through the same thing. That is what it's about. And so because I knew the purpose, it didn't really matter how people felt about it. You know, obviously I want to be on good terms with my parents, but at the end of the day, God gave me a mandate.
Come on.
And my mandate is far more important than any human relationship.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I dealt with their hurt because I realized it hurt them too. But my thing is, I went through it and I overcame it, so deal with my joy.
Right.
That's
Right.
good. That's good.
Put your hurt to the side for my joy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you can't go back and do anything about it, but we can still celebrate the outcome of it.
Wow.
That's good. That's good.
And with that, guys, we're going to take a pause for the cause on gospelradionation.com. And we are going to take a break, and we'll be right back in just a few moments, okay? All right. We're still up.